Hello, my name is Nelson. This video is for the hands-on knowledge workers wanting to gain the additional analytical skills for building a great mission-critical system. Testing was our 7th topic of this series. This is the 8th. In this short video, we shall see how deployment is done and evaluate the many deployment options and their pros and cons. Life is about making trade-offs, so is every business decisions we make. We shall give an overview on the system's architecture, how deployment is done, and discuss the 4 deployment scenarios. Then we can evaluate the trade-offs on 10 of the most essential considerations of a mission-critical system. They are suitability, fee structure, installation, code delivered, customization, ownership, confidentiality, control, continuity, and residual value. Rintargi and Rintargi-generated applications have the same architecture, 3 tiers. The client tier hosts all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that run on the web browsers. The web tier hosts all the server-side C# business rules and web services. The data tiers host the SQL business rules and data. Rintargi packaged everything needed for deployment into one executable file. When this package is executed, there are options to deploy the production system onto 3, 2, or just 1 hardware server. If cost is not an issue and high performance is a requirement, it is a common practice to deploy client and web tiers to one hardware server, while database tier to another independent database server. However, it is okay to deploy all 3 tiers onto one hardware server to save costs. There are 4 deployment options. Deploy to a cloud server, so subscribed users from different companies can share the same web application and databases. We call this software as a service or SaaS. Deploy to a private cloud managed by vendor, so users from the same company can access a private web application and dedicated databases. We call this a hosted cloud service. Deploy to a company's internal server or private cloud, so users from the same company can access a private web application and dedicated databases. We call this on-premises. Deploy to in-house internal server or private cloud, so internal staff can perform customization and support for the users to access the private web application and dedicated databases. We call this self-service. Going from left to right, software as a service or SaaS require that many companies to be sharing the same application and databases, making it most suitable for generic business processes, non-mission critical, and with little or no customization for each individual company. On the far right, self-serve is most suitable for companies that have very unique business processes operating in a mission-critical environment. Hosted cloud and on-premises usually deploy off-the-shelf software solutions with some customizations, making it suitable for business with some unique business processes operating in either a mission-critical or non-mission-critical environment. SaaS is usually subscription-based and month-by-month. License, support, and hosting are all included in the monthly payment. For hosted cloud, the fees are usually broken down into license, support, and hosting. For on-premises, only license fee and support fees are relevant because the hardware is provided by the customers. When it comes to self-serve, support is in-house and hardware is provided by the customer, therefore only license fee is relevant. SaaS is usually lower cost than self-service because of the economy of scale, but we believe our automated development platform, Rintargi, has leveled the playing field, making self-serve very affordable. SaaS only needs to be installed once by the vendor. All subsequent customer acquisitions requires no installation because everything is shared. In a hosted cloud scenario, every new customer requires installation by vendor. On-premises and self-serve requires the customer doing the installation. There is no need to deliver any code in either the SaaS or hosted cloud scenario because the installation is done by vendor. In the on-premises scenario, object code is delivered to the customer. For self-serve deployment, source code is delivered to the customer so that customization and support can be performed in-house at the discretion of the customer. Little or no customization is available on SaaS because it is usually not cost justified. Customization is done by the vendor in both hosted cloud and on-premises scenarios. For self-serve, in-house customization is the norm. There is no ownership in SaaS. It is basically just pay as you go. That's why it may not be suitable for a mission-critical operation when the entire business is dependent on it. Both the hosted cloud and on-premises options provide perpetual license to use the software. Self-serve has the added advantage of the rights to customize the source code, aside from owning a perpetual license to use the software. In terms of confidentiality, SaaS offers the least protection. Customers' data is not only accessible by the vendor, it resides on and shares the same physical database. If there was a leak, the data would be accessible by other customers. Hosted cloud offers additional protection by having data resides on a dedicated physical database, even though the data is still accessible by the vendor. Both on-premises and self-serve offer the best confidentiality protection. Data is only accessible by the in-house personnel and resides on a dedicated physical database. From a customer point of view, there is very little or no control on the software when it comes to SaaS or hosted cloud installation. On the contrary, customer has full control on the software for the on-premises and self-serve options, with the latter having additional control on customization. Business continuity can be considered an extension of the ownership of software. Unless there is a special agreement in place, there is no continuity in SaaS. It is literally just pay as you go. Both hosted cloud and on-premises options have the luxury of a perpetual license to use the software, and in the case of vendors' insolvency, an escrow protection can be added to protect the source code of the software. Needless to say, self-serve has the full continuity protection because it has the additional perpetual license to use the source code. Is software as a service a capital investment or expense? The answer is it's expense because there is no residual value. Once the payment is stopped, all services will be cut off at the same time. For hosted cloud and on-premises, the software costs can be amortized over the expected life of the software for as long as the customers deem appropriate. Self-serve can amortize both the software costs and in-house customization costs over the expected life of the software. This is a summary of the trade-offs on deployment. These are the takeaways. There are 4 ways to deploy a production system, and each of them has its pros and cons. Need to make the trade-offs and choose wisely. On-premises or self-serve deployment are recommended for mission-critical applications. These are the references for further reading. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we shall investigate how to manage system changes and how Rentaki platform can embrace some of these changes with change on the fly and late change no penalty technology.